is 5 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to Lake Monterey School District number 84 regular board meeting number 793. It's Tuesday, February 11th, and I'd like to turn this over to you guys to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Southside Elementary School here to help us. So.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, sorry. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I get that.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, let me turn it over to you guys. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Smith. I am principal at Southside Elementary School, and I am here to introduce our wonderful CCLC program. It's our 21st Century Community Learning Center, which is our after-school program. We are in our 5th year of having this program at Southside Elementary. We currently have 37 kids in the program with 6 on the waiting list. This year we are up for reapplication, so our fingers are crossed just because this is such a crucial program for our rural school. And we are so excited for our kids to present about all the things that they do at CCLC. I'm going to introduce our director. This is Lorraine B.
Hello, and I have the pleasure of introducing my amazing staff, Candace Fournier and Nora Jean Lamar back there standing for our pictures.
Like she said, I'm Candace Fournier. I'm the lead at CCLC. I'm going to introduce Virginia, Waylon, Noah, Carson, Genevieve, and Peyton to you all. I'm going to turn it over to Genevieve, who is going to go ahead and start our presentation.
An after-school program, we strive to succeed. Safety on task, attitude, responsibility are goal. An after-school program, we do PE, art, youth development, STEM, computer tech, community partners. Established in 2020.
PE. In PE, we practice good sportsmanship. In PE, we play line tag, mushroom tag, Great Wall of China, Night at the Museum, goggle ball, man from Mars, parachute, basketball, and soccer. In art, we do oil and chalk pastels, we do watercolor paints, glow boxes, colored charcoal pencils, primary and secondary colors. If you don't know what a primary color is, it's red, yellow, and blue. Its secondary color is orange, green, and purple. Even tertiary colors. A tertiary color is where you mix a secondary color and a primary color.
In we do youth development, which we do youth development after school. In youth development, we do bingo, charades, 11, eyes and shoes, how potato, 21 questions, would you rather, anti-bullying, and buddy line.
STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In STEM, in after school, we do 3D pens, KiwiCo kits, which includes solar systems and baking. We do chemistry, which includes ice cream and butter making. We do physical science, construction, engineering, technology, coding, and slime. I am Peyton, the STEM ambassador. If you don't know what a STEM ambassador is, it is someone who does morning announcements and teaches people about STEM.
In homework club, we can do reading, which we have Epic, Storyline, Online, ABC Mouse, iStation, and Typing.com. And in math, we can do iExcel, Imagine Math Facts, and fun ways to learn is look at a prodigy, and we have our teachers to help us with our homework. Oh, that's me. From the University of Idaho, we have Jennifer Jensen, and she does reef making, propagation, junior master and gardener classes, and that includes 4-H. Well, that also has 4-H, and that includes cooking, aerospace, gardening. And from the East Bonner County Library, we have Brendan Bobby, and he does STEM nights with parents, and Suzanne does the fractured fairy tales. Cheerio!
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions for our
I've got a comment. If chemistry was ice cream and butter, I'd probably have done better in chemistry. You guys have any questions? No, thank you. Awesome. No, this is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
I do want to tell you the board got you some brownies. I asked them ahead of time if I was allergic to chocolate, so the board and I thank you guys for that. You guys can go talk, figure out how you're going to do that with your teacher, so thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much.
And you guys are welcome to stay or vacate. It's completely up to you. You're welcome. Thank
If my dad didn't figure anything out, whatever.
I know.
Hey, good job.
I know, good job. Thanks.
All right. That was a great start to the meeting. I got a smile from ear to ear. Next, we're going to jump into our mid-year data report with our directors of teaching and learning, Andra Murray and Casey McLaughlin. Good luck following that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody left.
I feel like we always have a tough act to
Yeah, I
follow,
know.
but data will leave you smiling as well.
That's good.
We're really excited to celebrate the growth so far at the January kind of checkpoint, our winter data. And I'd love to highlight our elementary literacy. We take the Idaho Reading Indicator, you hear that referred to as the IRI, state test required fall and spring. We do it again in January just to practice. And you can see the state on the left, the district on the right. So the great news is we're outperforming the state by almost 10%. The green would show our on-level readers. And last winter, we had about 69% of students in the green at this point. So we're trending ahead this year as compared to last year. So very exciting data to bring from January.
That's awesome.
Continuing that is a computer-based test given across all of Idaho, and one of the reports that our instructional coaches and our team look at is the ROI, or the rate of improvement. And again, the great news there, you saw on the previous slide, green are readers who are proficient, we have yellow, so they have a couple things to work on, or red are most strategic readers. Our rate of improvement across all three of those colored tiers is a high rate of improvement. So you can see Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, meaning we're on track to make more than a year's growth in a year's time. So we love to see that aim line catching students up. So that's a celebration for sure. I'll highlight that everyone graduates a reader initiative, which you've heard so much about, and you know that one of the pieces we really track there is that being able to read independently, accurately, and with appropriate rate. So these are students who receive our Pathways to Reading intervention. That's a specific program embraced by the district. Here you would love to see the bar graph falling. So again, this follows our students who needed that intervention in the fall across 4th, 5th, and 6th in the blue. Winter shows the red students still needing that intervention. So clearly we're exiting quite a few kids across all grade levels at elementary. Very exciting news.
That's awesome.
And finally, we take the MAP, the Measure of Academic Progress. It's a computer-based assessment that samples standards across the grade level. We take it fall and again in winter so that we know our kids are making great gains. And then our state tests come in the spring. That tracks growth for each student. It will set a goal with the hope that they will meet or exceed that goal. This is one of our favorite, just really high-level district reports, a district summary. It'll set the diamond where it's projecting you want to aim as a grade level. The bar graph shows where our students actually landed at winter. So of course you want to see the bar graph exceed the diamond, and we did at every single grade level, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. This is reading. And again, the goal back on reading, same with either one, is that 50% or more, because these are stretch goals, of the students would meet or exceed that target. So when you see in the 60s and 70s, that's a huge celebration. And I did look up 3 of these 4 grade levels are trending ahead of where they were last year, with one being really, really close. So again, we're looking more positive this winter than last winter. Same holds true for math, which has really been an area of focus, I know, for our school board, for our staff, for our students. Your new curriculum at elementary, really working on assessments, common assessments. PLCs are digging in and talking about mathematics. So again, to see exceeding that 50% in every grade level from 56 to 70% is really amazing growth at the winter checkpoint. So I just want to thank our students, our families, our staff, our administrators. This takes a group effort. Absolutely, our instructional coaches who work in the classroom day to day to help our teams use data and adjust. It's really exciting growth for Team Elementary. Take it away.
Okay, thanks. So secondary and wow, that was like on cue.
Yeah,
that was
quiet for you.
On cue.
How much power do you have?
Perfect. I did want to point out and start with our reading data from Every Student Graduates a Reader, and just thank Lisa McElroy for all her and her team, their incredible work on this. It is really impressive what we've done in this district, and we are still making progress in secondary, and of course, students that ended up in secondary with those gaps we're working with, and you can see we started in the fall identifying throughout secondary, so no specific grade level, but from 7 through 12, identifying just under 80 students. It was 77, and we've dropped that to 56, and of course, the expectation is for that to continue to drop. So really excited about that, and honestly, that team is doing such amazing work, and if you ever have a chance to visit one of their meetings and data meetings and just see the incredible things that they're doing, it is very impressive. So I can't speak highly enough about that works. Graduation rate, this is a little bit good and a little bit bad, to be honest. And sometimes we look at the things that are amazing, and we also look at the things that we say, okay, we need some growth. And this is an area where I think there's some spots there. State-wise, 82% graduation rate in 2024. LPOSD exceeds that, which is great at 86.2%. Clark Fork, I want to point out, has done an amazing job. They have really tracked students and are really working with every student. They have that self-directed learner plan, which I love because it is working with individual students and right where they're at and giving them what they need. And you can see that. I think there's a huge testimony to what they're doing out there at 100% graduation rate. Sandpoint High School has gone up at 90.5%. The excellent work they're doing there, and we'll highlight that a little bit later. LPO at 50%, we expected that to actually be a little bit higher. I've been working with Mr. Childers, who's the principal there, and they are now looking every single quarter about who is on track and who is not, and then what adjustments we need to make, because we're not satisfied with that 50%, especially for some of our most vulnerable students and some of the students that need the most growth and most help. And so we're definitely looking at that pretty clearly. So, but I did want to point out and just say Clark Fork, that's pretty amazing at 100%. One trusted adult. This is incredible, and if you look across the secondary and just taking the kind of the dipstick of secondary and looking at what schools are at in terms of identifying, every student identifying a trusted adult. And it's pretty amazing. You look at Sandpoint Middle School, which I think is pretty incredible in and of itself, given that half of those students are 7th graders and are new to the school. And they're at 93.86% in February, which is pretty amazing. Sandpoint High School, bravo to Ms. Crossingham and her staff, at 97.3% of students identifying a trusted adult within the school. Pretty incredible. Clark Fork at 99%, and of course you can see that correlation. with graduation rate. And LPO, which I wanted to point out LPO, and one of the things that I've noticed there is that relational piece, right? And I wanted to point out that even though they're sitting at that 50% graduation rate currently, kids are identifying that they have a trusted adult, and they have what's called a 90% club. And when you walk in the office, you see all these students' pictures of who's been in attendance 90% for the last month. And so they're celebrating that, and they're trying to make those connections with those kids, which I think is pretty awesome. So go ahead to the next slide. I want to point out just a couple things. One thing about Sandpoint Middle School, if you notice, this is a lot of grades. 2,796 grades were issued that semester. Of those, 43%, or really 44, we're going to round up. I was actually in this comics class today, and I rounded at Washington Elementary, so we're going to go ahead and round that up to 44. But if you look all the way down, the percentage of Fs has dropped significantly over the years at 2.25% of students, and of all grades issued were Fs, which was 63 out of the 2,796. Pretty incredible. Talking to Mr. Penrose, he really attributes it to what he calls the data cycle. And what they are doing there is our teachers are taking a set of data of how students are doing as they assess students, sitting down together and looking at each student and grouping those students to say, what does this group of students need, specifically at their level? And let's give them that. And so what they do is they have a flex time that they bring the students in, and they work with those students individually, and they give them what they need at their level. And so that's helping the students to succeed. We're also working with depth of knowledge, which I won't jump into that all the way, but also they're very actively engaging students, and that is really important, especially as we know middle school level, having active engagement strategies is really important. So,
What's TPT stand for?
Total participation techniques. Sorry, I was actually interviewing a teacher who was new to teaching, and he actually said, sometimes the acronyms you guys use and the words you use, I don't always understand. So I got always teacher language. So
Got that. You write that one down?
okay, Sandpoint High School. This is amazing, and the stats here are pretty incredible that Ms. Crossing-Anham and our staff compiled. And if you look at this, the trend line, and I've got another slide here in just a second that shows a bar graph. And you start there with ADA and the average attendance, and you look over the years, 2023, 89.3% attendance, and you go to 95.5 last year, and now 96.7. It's pretty amazing. When you're in school, you can learn, right? You go down to the F list. 2023, 448 students had Fs on their semester 1 report card, and you can see the drop. 282 last year and 194, under 200 this year, which is pretty incredible. And there were 109 students receiving at least one F. You can see that the number of students receiving an F has gone down as well. So it's pretty impressive what they're doing. You can jump to the next slide there. And according to Ms. Crossing and our team, what has changed? Intentional intervention, kind of like the middle school does with the flex time. It's what they call bulldog time. They're making sure students we all know, not every student learns at the same rate, right? Sometimes students need second chance learning opportunities. They don't all learn it the first time. They're giving that opportunity during access time, during bulldog time. They have a math study class. There are a lot of academic support classes. They've increased their focus on attendance. They're really, really, really big on attending because it is important to be there so that you can learn. And then, of course, a formalized what's called NTSS. It's our multi-tiered systems of support. Make sure I said that one. And really what that is it's finding out if a student is struggling. It's really like a doctor and a diagnosis. If somebody's sick, what do you do? What's the solution? And that's what we do for students, is to say, what exactly is the issue here and how do we solve it? And that's the whole idea. So that's all of it. You can go to the last slide there. But we just want to thank you, thank the board, your continued support. We definitely have some incredible things going on. We've got some room to grow. And yeah, we're excited about this year. It's been excellent. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, now we're going to move on to CFO Brian Wallace for a financial update.
Chair Lewis, members of the board, Dr. Meyer, once again. Oh, Willie. Man, I am.
See how this is going to go.
Working out well.
That's all right. I'm going to get my resume. Let's
Call Gerald. She's late for the meeting.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right, well, we'll just stick with numbers right now. Well, again, the same format. I did highlight on the monthly activity on our revenue side that you can see $7.2 million of our supplemental levy came in this month. The $181,000 is the tort levy, which is another small levy that we collect to help with our liability insurance is what it goes for. But those two, probably about 55–60% came in the first payment, and then we get the other in July. But that's, on the revenue side, it's a big month when those dollars come in. Again, when you just go down to that does put us, 65%. So we've received over 50% for the year. We'll get a pretty big payment in February, then the second set of property taxes and a couple other state payments sort of rounds out the year. On the expenditure side, again, we're right there about $3.5 million with salaries every month, so our staffing is consistent. That's going to stay throughout the year for the general fund. Some of the other expenditures as far as purchase service material supplies have slowed up a little bit. A lot of times you do that early in the year and sort of slows up as we go. We're tracking, towards budget like previous years, so we're, that's good that we're sort of staying within the parameters of what we thought would happen. Just the chart on the next slide just shows you can really see on the expenditure side that we're almost halfway there for our spending for the year, and that's about right, because most of our expenditures they go through effectively August for salaries anyway, but we're tracking well. And on the revenue side, you can see the, received most of our, or majority of our state apportionment, some other payments. You can see the supplemental levy, that's the thing that really came up in this year. And then usually some of the other state funding comes in later in the year, especially our transportation funding, that always comes in late. So that's that big chunk that's sort of sitting out there. And on enrollment, I was 1 week off. I didn't get this Mondays, but we're down a little bit from last month, 5 kids. That's sort of typical that this time of the year, sometimes you sort of slide with your secondary kids a little bit in enrollment. After first semester, yeah, it can happen. We're actually, as a district, when I've seen others, doing better. And our attendance rates, what Casey and Andrea just shared, is fantastic. We're well above the state average in attendance. So not only is that great for the kids and for the program and for them meeting their goals, but there's the bonus we get paid by attendance, so it's really good from a financial perspective. It's really helped us. A couple items of note. First, JFAC did approve a 5% raise for, and I'm putting the disclaimer, for each cell, the career ladder, administrative base, and classified base. So that is a 5% raise on the funding formula. It's an increase to the funding factors, not a 5% raise per employee, but it is additional dollars, and that's good. So that'll be, if it gets approved by the legislature, that'll be baked into the formula for next year when we estimate our revenues. And then I just thought I'd share some, when we look at Idaho public schools, just some stats that are statewide, just sort of give you a perspective of the system overall. So some of these numbers do come out in the fall when everybody reports their enrollment and they sort of compile. So, 317,961 students in public school. 115 school districts, and they have 87% of their enrollment. 275,000 kids. 76 charter schools, but they only have 13% of the enrollment, so most charters are smaller than some big districts. Our enrollment officially, non-duplicated enrollment from the state is 3783. So we're 1.2% of the enrollment in the state of Idaho. And in fact, a lot of times when it gets to funding, you can say, if they're, let's say they propose, we're going to give school districts another $100 million. Well, Whether that impact up, generally we can say it's about 1.2 million for us if they distributed it, proportionally. Largest district in the state, just to give you perspective, is West Ada with, approaching almost 40,000 kids. So that's a big district. The smallest is Three Creek Joint School District, 5 students. And that, just so you know, it's down south of Twin Falls, like just north of Jackpot, Nevada, that area of the state. But what's the smallest school district in the Panhandle? Dr. Meyer probably knows. Do you know?
West Bonner?
No, much smaller than that. Avery.
Oh,
Avery?
Yeah.
Avery School District, and they have 8 kids.
Yeah.
So they're
Oh,
way
that's
bigger
way
than
big.
Three Creek.
The superintendent's kids count for 3 of them.
There you go. So there you go. You look at, we have 76 charter schools across the state, but only 9 are north of Riggins. So south of Lewiston. So effectively, you have 1 in Lewiston, 1 or 2 in Moscow, and the rest in Kootenai County, and of course only 1 in Bonner Boundary, which is, of course, Burrs. Just so that charter schools really, sort of southeast Idaho and southwest Idaho is where they really congregate, right? You can see if you look at all the districts and charters, 133 are less than 1,000. So there's a lot of small school districts amongst our state. 58 are greater than 1,000, so 30%. And 26 districts are above 3,000. So but out of those 13% of districts, that's 70% of the kids.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of, the state is sort of, there's a real variety of type of districts of the small rural school districts and the big West Adas, and we're 22, so we consider a large district in the state. And then roughly a third of Idaho students are on a 4-day week. 100,000, 76 districts and 19 charters, but because it's just a third, most of those are small rural schools, and some of those just sort of give you a perspective of sort of how the state's there. And I'm here for any questions.
None for me. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Now we've got public comment. Do we have any public comment? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Dr. Meyer.
You're gonna skip it.
Yeah. We got thrown off there. That was somewhere else. Superintendent report. Dr. Meyer,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
the February report. This wasn't working when I was trying it earlier, so.
I could just have it for you.
Yeah.
Is this still recording?
Call that.
Okay, so follow up from the patron comment. Every time a patron does a comment at a board meeting, the board has asked me and tasked me with what is the follow-up so that I make sure that the public knows and the board knows. I usually inform the board sooner than the month later, but just to let the public know what we followed through with. So we did have a public comment last time by Sarah, and she came and spoke about the speed limit signs and was concerned about having more police presence there. So Officer Hegstrom followed through. The CSO contacted the city of Sandpoint, which he recently was a police officer at, so he knew who to contact. They said to go to the website and submit a request, and there is a concern letter, and you enter it, and then they address it through the city. The city council meeting could be another way you could address it. You can go and do a public comment, which I was at the city council meeting last week, but I was presenting on the facility, so I didn't want to intermix the two. But I suggested that she might go do that. And the Public Works Department is in charge of the signage, so just so the board knows for that. So she's going to go speak to the city council meeting in the next week. Okay, every student, every day, just reminding you of our strategic plan. I'm going to do a quick summary. Sorry. The budget and staffing allocations, CFO Wallace started to talk about it. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew the legislature is in full swing. They've had a lot of discussions, bills already brought up that might affect us as a district for our budget and our staffing allocations. We, as I told the board, we are going to every single 11 schools in the district and every department, and we're ending here on March 3rd with the district office, so anybody who missed any of the presentations is welcome, and we've already had some staff go to other schools to hear it. So we are presenting Brian Smith, who's the LPOEA president, and Brian Wallace, the CFO, and myself, and we're presenting the financial part of the district, facilities update, and then we're presenting some forecasting and telling them just great things about our celebrations about our district, and then just a little bit of long-range thinking. So we want all the board to know and the public to know as we move forward, these are the things that we consider when we start to look at our budget and start to look at our staffing. So these are all pieces. Right now, like I said, we're in legislation, and you know that any sort of changes in staffing, we first look at attrition, where people are resigning or moving on, or retirement when we are looking at staffing in this district, and it's always been that way. One reason that makes our district strong. And lots of grants and donations, and Mr. Wallace talked about enrollment projections, so just looking at a lot goes into building the budget and doing what's best for the district to maintain our fiscal responsibility. So, a quick facility update. The board knows this, but we had another meeting yesterday morning, and now the close to finalized plans are going to the architect for him to finalize, to go to the general contractor. We've got a lot of stakeholder input from teachers. Matt Deal, who's the facilities director, Jackie Crossingham, who's in the audience, but she's the San Juan High School principal, and TJ Clary. They went and did some at K-Tech, and then they went to the workforce training, and then they went to another dental place in Post Falls. So they went around and looked at different places to see hands, like their eyes, they could see and talk to the instructors that are doing this every day, so it wouldn't just be us making the decision without informed information. So thank you to them for taking time out of their day to do that. We did, as you know, I wrote the grant for it to be here, and I got outvoted by the committee, which is actually good. Less travel time to get students over here, no loss of instructional time, and with that new piece being added onto the end of San Juan High School as a separate annex, it'll have its own location, which is one thing of the grant, to have its own identity of CTEC of North Idaho. But we were able to add an extra classroom into there by saving that space. So that part's good for taxpayers and the public. So hopefully it'll be open a year from now, but if not, it'll be open fall of 2026 for us to use the CTEC. So as you know, the board,
Sorry,
Oh.
I jumped the slide.
Oh.
I'll go back.
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. The middle school, as you know, the board approved the, this usually works, so I'm not sure why it quit working, but it did. Sandpoint Middle School project, you are already aware because you approved it, and we've been sharing with the staff the LPOSD 10-year facilities plan, telling them this is the first plan that you've approved, but it is a 10-year plan. We know things might change, and the board is certainly able to look at that and make changes in the future if they'd like, but this is the first blush on that. We did tell them that we're building it in phases. So right now, the architect is still working on gathering information, and we're going to be in the design phase still for the remainder of the year. We talked about doing some more advertising and doing like a rendering on the Daily Bee and making sure that people see that. That's similar to how they did the Pisney one recently, if you saw the front page of the Daily Bee. And making sure that we get everyone's opinion before we get it finalized, and then they will break ground summer of 2026, and then fall of 2028 we'll be moving in. Cool. The students, and we want to make sure the public knows this, the students will be able to stay in the building, and because they'll be building it in phases, which we didn't know was possible, with the electrical being completely revamped. I will remind the board and the public that electrical is the original electrical from the 50s. So that's one of the biggest hurdles for us to get through the project, and that takes about a year to get that, the supply chain and all of that takes about a year. So that will be going in phases, which we feel is best for students. Sandpoint High School, as the board knows, we have a $140,000 donation, 100% donated. And thank you to what's going to be the Romy and Stephen Visual Arts Studio. So it'll be a real-life art studio in Sandpoint High School. It's phenomenal. I can't really emphasize how grateful we are to this donor who really wants to help support students for visual arts, and 100% donated. They've already kind of started to clean it out. Ms. Crossingham has a few teachers using it, but the day after school's out, they'll be moving and starting. It'll be ready for the fall. And this generous donor has also allotted for time for the alternative school students, because that art teacher is retiring, so there's a way for them to be also the LPOHS students to be able to use that space if they so desire. So that's a great option from this donor. Just can't say enough thank yous for that. And also, as you know, you've seen plans in the district, this board meeting that keeps going off, the heater on and off, and thank you. We try to turn it off, and then it seems like maybe it's too cold and it keeps kicking on. It's hard to hear people, and they're yelling, and then it goes off. That will not be in the way when we move downstairs. So for ADA, that's important, and that will be hopefully open this summer. So just as a reminder of save the date, I think Kelly maybe sent this onto your calendar, but we will be having the Anxious Generation. I've already got several, it was in the last loop, I've got several patrons writing back, thank you. We've seen a lot of success at all 3 high schools based on this. All 3 of them has really curtailed the use, and just kudos to the 3 high school principals that have taken this seriously and found the middle ground. As we spoke about, the board approved that board policy, we got $5,000 so for doing that, so thank you. And I just want to make sure everyone's coming to that. Community Connection, thank you to Darren Savon, who's our CRL, Community Relations Liaison. Here's a picture he actually took, a real life picture from a local, and you can name that, like Brian, you name that spot and he could tell you, and that's the loop. And anyone in the public that wants to look at any of the prior loops, just links on that in the presentation. You can go to the prior loops. Okay, so we're going to focus on the one thing. The board did say that at the beginning of the year, what each of their one thing was. So we go to the next slide. Every student, every day. I want to thank I shouldn't say Casey and Andrew, McLaughlin, Mr. McLaughlin, Mrs. Murray. It's hard for me to say their last name. Sorry, you guys. Just so used to saying Casey and Andrew. But they really did a great job of what the focus of this district is. The center of all we do is the students, and what a testament to our staff, our support staff, the teaching staff, the administrators, everybody, bus drivers that drive the kids every day. You could see by that presentation how impactful it's been. So a great job for our district. The board reminding the public, the board's 3 focus goals, they touched on these each tonight on what you determined last summer was going to be your 3 focus goals this year. And you see in the presentation they touched on all of those. So three really quick things. The 100 Days of Learning is coming up next week on Friday, so you can celebrate and look for all the posts that Darren will be doing on Instagram and Facebook and videos, and it's really been an expansion of our program through him doing little videos, so you can kind of, if you aren't subscribed to that, you should be as board members to see all the great stuff happening. And then February is Love the Bus Month, so you might want to do something for those bus drivers this month, especially with the cold weather this week. And CTE Appreciation Month is in February. These are the programs that we have. You're well aware of that. I also, before we go to open enrollment, February 12th, which is tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. So if you were out, it'd be great to bring them some hot cocoa or something, especially tomorrow. So that's tomorrow as well. Crossing Guard. There's a lot to celebrate in February. We were just talking about that. So by law, I am doing an open enrollment report for you all so that you can see these are the laws if the public wants to link and see what we're obligated to do and what the new laws are. This is as of yesterday. This is our enrollment report, so you can see we're 3794. Tells you what each school is, and then across the bottom what each grade level is. And then Kelly prepared this. The open enrollment is what the board is interested in and what gets published on the website. This means if we have students that are going either out of their zone, applying for a school in, or in district or out of the district applying to come in. If it is a negative number, it means that is already gone past the max that the board approved for the numbers. Doesn't mean that we can't let them in, but it means that we have to really look at, is there the capacity to take the student in or not? And you see at the secondary level, there's not negative numbers because that was based on what is the English, the ELA classes, average at that school. That's what that's based on. So there's typically more room there, but you can see that we're pretty crowded in some of the elementary grade levels. Okay, any questions?
Not for me. No? Thank you very much, Dr. Merrick. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, do we have any public comment today? Nope. Okay. No public comment today. We will jump into board action items. We have a couple second readings of policy. And first one is 8530. It's property damage. It's all new. We went over this once. This is, we're kind of codifying this in policy for what we've already been doing. Is there any discussion or any questions or anything? Okay. We'll entertain a motion if anybody wants to.
I would make a motion to adopt new policy 8530, property damage.
Second that. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. And now we're going to jump into second reading of policy 9805, memorials on school grounds. This is another new policy. And it's not full up there, but I would entertain a motion and discuss if need be.
I make a motion to adopt new policy 9805, memorials on school grounds.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Straightforward. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes. Next, we've got our consent agenda, and I will entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second? Second. Any discussion or questions on that consent agenda? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion passes. All right, now let's jump into first reading of policies. We've got a few of these to look at tonight. First one being 3545, student questioning and arrests.
Chair, we had a question from a counselor in the district because it just said in our policy physical abuse, and we wanted to make it more clearly defined. So we put in the Idaho code specifically there, and then did the definition under so that it would include all forms. So it was provide more clarity for the counselors.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback and a good addition. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions, concerns, comments, or grammatical errors? Somebody call Curly. Okay, well.
Is it, I guess I did have a question.
Yeah.
Is this exactly how it's gonna read? With that one line, independent standing alone?
Yep.
And not wording tied into the previous paragraph? Is that how you want it?
The previous paragraph is italicized because it's direct Idaho code. So that's why we didn't add that language in. The statement below is the legal definition of what child abuse is.
Okay. We can move on to first reading of policy 5415, other types of leave.
And this chair we talked about last year, and the board approved going to classified at half the amount that the certified was. So this is formalizing it, putting it into the board policy. So we just getting that into writing.
Yeah, it's good to have that very like as well. Yeah. Any other input, feedback? Okay. Next, we'll move on to policy 5705, substitute employment compensation. Changes here.
And HR Director Thoretta Short is here if we have questions.
Okay. I threw it. Does anybody have any questions, especially specifically for Threat? She's here. No? Okay. Well, just keep on plugging along. Next policy is new policy 8500, risk management. And this is an entire new policy.
This is just to clarify what we're already doing.
Yeah, so we're already doing this, it's just putting it into
If
policy
CFO
now.
Wallace, will you come up for the next three? Because he's in charge of insurance and liability and all of that. He can speak to it better than I can.
Yes, for the first part, yeah, we're having liability insurance and, you know, with the program and stuff like that. The surety bond, that's a recommendation. We're not doing that right now. That's really a protection from for the district, where you'd get a bond for staff that have there, like if we were bad actors, that the district would be protected. It's almost sort of like a performance bond for a contractor.
Right.
You know, they don't perform what they're supposed to do, and you're getting insurance on that. It's in Idaho code. It's recommended. A lot of districts don't do it. It's probably not a bad practice to move forward with. It's not super expensive, and something that's in Idaho code. That
Do we go to that locally? Is there someone local that will go through it?
I would, you know, for that, I would reach out to first our Moreton Company and ICRIM to see if that's, you know, under their umbrella, if they offer those types of coverage. And then also probably talk with our attorneys, Megan O'Dowd and Mark Lyons, and what they would recommend as far as companies who do that.
Yeah, and then you know, when I hear surety bond, I think of the contractor world, of somebody bonding around something to make sure it gets done if they've got issues. But I mean, I know it would be interesting to see what this costs and what the recommendations are and what other districts do this.
I looked at, yeah, I mean, you know, districts I've worked in Idaho, we did not do it.
Right.
And perhaps it's just coming to the forefront as more strange things have happened, it seems lately, you read things in the paper. I did look like at the big players. I looked at Boise, I looked at Moscow's, I looked at West Ada's, and they had similar policies. Some of the bigger districts are looking at that. So, I mean, I think it's, district's been fine. I think our practice has been good. It never hurts to look at things to protect the district.
So I would recommend that we bring the amount back to the board and talk about who,
Sure.
and before we take it to the next reading, to at least learn more information.
And it is your policy. I mean, this was, I actually, you know, used most of the language. I cut it down a little bit from my SBA, but I also looked at those other districts, and, you know, you certainly could probably say the district may as opposed to shall.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is perhaps we change the wording to give us, you know, I don't want it to sound negative, but to give us an out.
Yeah.
If it's something that we don't need and we are doing great, and we already have different insurances in place that would potentially cover something that might fall under that category.
Right.
Like, why spend the taxpayer dollars on that if we don't need to?
Yeah, Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Just so this is recommended from
Mhm.
ISBA and
Yeah,
things like
for
that.
sure.
So we can definitely do more research.
Yeah, it'd be good to see what the costs are and what the recommended coverages would be and what we would potentially look at. But I do like the idea of maybe changing that to may purchase pay, because I don't want to bind us to something or a future board that may not need it.
So Brian, can you think of a time when you worked in any of the districts that where they wish they would have had this and they didn't have it, and it was something that they should have had? Or
Not for a school district, but, God, who was it? Was it the city of Athol? Not too long ago, a couple of years ago. Their business officer embezzled quite a bit of money. That's what it was.
That would have covered that.
So I think perhaps that would be a case that if they didn't have
So
that.
this is kind of a big umbrella that would cover a lot of things that the district could use for liabilities.
Well, yeah, I think the surety bond is specific
To a-
that,
Right.
yeah, that I'm not going to be a bad
Right,
actor
yeah.
and the district's protected. Is it rare? Yes.
Yeah.
Has it happened? Yes.
Yes.
But it is pretty rare, and
Right.
but I mean, I can reach out to our broker for iCrimp. He's a great resource. We just had a liability question on a project that Washington may do with a gazebo, and Matt said, "What does insurance think?" And I sent him an email saying, "What's that?" And he'll definitely get back with current practice and what other districts are doing and costs and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be helpful to know
Okay.
what the costs are and what specifically, because in my mind, I go specifically to like, okay, the financial aspect of things. You want to make sure that whoever's, you,
Right.
Yeah.
are we bonded around anything that could happen there that's not going to be covered should something crazy happen?
Right,
You know?
and the level of, is there certain coverage in our current policy right now?
Right.
It doesn't name me specifically, but might be
Right.
other, more an umbrella coverage somewhere.
Yeah.
We can get that information.
Because if there's some, like sometimes your policy will say, oh, no, that's, sorry, we're going to call that gross negligence. We're not covering that.
Correct.
Boom. Okay, here's your other
Right.
bond or something. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ryan, for that. Next one up. Sorry, losing my mind here. Do we just do risk management? Okay, sorry. 8510 District CHD. Oh, you're giving it up, sorry. Is there any questions from you guys on this? Okay.
Yeah, it's more about housekeeping, just representation.
Yep. And 20, also new.
This is already taking place. This is what we do every year. The safety inspector comes.
Yep.
Yeah, at the state level. We just didn't have it in policy, and I did look at other districts, and they did have this just to sort of coincide with the requirements
Yeah.
of state law.
It's a good idea.
Okay.
Policy. Moving back on. Okay, any questions or anything, you guys? All right. Thank you, Brian. Moving right along to administrative announcements. What do we got?
Well, we have basketball going on in high school right now, so it's regional time, so that's exciting, and wrapping up a fun season of wrestling and everything. But tomorrow is our big broadcasting registration day, so that's what we've been working towards for the last year. So we're pretty excited to see what classes and courses students sign up for in the next few weeks. So that's been our big push.
Elementary, we are done with midwinter testing. We're in February. We are dealing with half the school that is really upset they have to go outside to recess, and the other half that's really upset they don't get
go outside and recess. And that's what we have to eat all day long.
All right. Yeah, that sounds about right. How about you, Mr. Malapi?
I don't have any more than what I already said.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, we'll move right on to executive session. We'll entertain a motion for whoever feels like reading it.
I'll make a motion to move into executive session as provided for in Idaho Code Title 704, Section 206, Subsection 1B, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, of disciplinary, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, or police.
I second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, trustee Demers.
Yes.
Trustee Wood.
Yes.
Trustee Peters.
Yes.
Trustee Sherman. Yes. Chair Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
I said here once and I yelled at it.